Our next speaker is a young woman with a tremendously high vision for impact. Sophia Armen is the co-founder and co-director of the Feminist Front. And we're very excited to have her, and even more so as events are unfolding for those of you who are getting text messages about a leak from the Supreme Court that it's looking like the Roe versus Wade may be overturned. We're going to really be leaning into women's rights during the course of this conversation. I think many of us undervalue perhaps that we don't have equal standing under the United States Constitution. I've spoken with women from around the world, and they are shocked and amazed to learn that we do not have that equality in this nation. And it is really the reason some of these things are able to happen and not be challenged. So I'm excited to have Sophia join us and join us and bring her message, her voice, and her wisdom to all of us. Welcome, Sophia.
Hi, everyone.
Still...
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. If you can tell me in the chat how my internet connection is it all right?
Yes,
Good.
it's good. You're good.
Amazing. Perfect. Okay. So good morning from Los Angeles. I have to say, everyone, good afternoon. If you're in late evening, so happy to be here with you. Thank you to the entire team who invited me here. This is a really wonderful, incredible space, and also deeply needed at a very urgent and critical time. So I will transition also what our wonderful opening folks mentioned, that we happen to be quite literally within the 24-hour point of a leaked draft that indicates that the United States essentially will be allowing for the outlawing of abortion, our abortion rights. This represents a huge, huge rollback, right, of many of our reproductive justice, health, and healthcare wins of the past. And we know that we cannot go back, and if anything, the rights that we had yesterday were the floor, not the ceiling. And we have much, much more to go. So today I'm going to talk to you about the source and root of many of those failures and inequities that especially women face in the United States, but we know is a global struggle for women's rights and women's equality. I'm very happy to be here, and first want to just invite you into a little bit about where I come from and who I am. My name is Sophia Armen. I'm the co-chair of the Feminist Front. We're a youth of color-led gender justice organization building up the next generation of the feminist movement in this country. We are uniting people in grassroots ways, roots up, block by block, and we have been building rigorously and diligently over the past 3 years. Literally in our pajamas, we united youth across the United States in the last election and helped registered over 500,000 people of color and young people to vote for the first time. We have been building, and we're not going to take this. And so I'm here today to be in space with you, but more importantly, to call on you to collectively join our movements, and in whatever way you are fighting, for us to bridge and connect together, because we need you now more than ever, okay? So today's talk, however, is a key issue that we work on, and I'm gonna jump into right now about why we need the Equal Rights Amendment. Let me know when you can see my screen so we make sure this works. All right, perfect. So today it's very, very apparent. Our charge is simple. We need women's rights, we need women's leadership, we need feminism now, and most importantly, we need equal rights under the law. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means and the horrific reality that out of the global democracies in the world, the United States still stands alone in that we do not have gender protections or even the category of women within our own constitution in our law of the land. So a little bit of background, like I said, I'm coming to you from the Feminist Front. We focus especially on survivor-centered justice, on building youth power, on the Equal Rights Amendment, and we are a member of the ERA Coalition, which is a broad coalition that I actually encourage all of you to join, of 200 member organizations fighting this fight on the front lines every day. We use bell hooks as a guiding definition for our work. If you're not familiar with our work, I really encourage you to do this. But something that's so important about, I think, this theme of this amazing summit, right? Regeneration is about that commitment to what she says is an ideology of domination, right? That is a problem about constantly pitting all of us against each other, about prioritizing violence and competition when we should be prioritizing ourselves, collective care, right? And things that are actually about healing not only our society, but ourselves interpersonally. We know that that takes change. And we believe that feminists have to be on the front line of this change. So for us, that means answering this very simple question. Most people, when surveyed in the United States, believe that women as a category, as a protective class, are in the United States Constitution, and they are not. They are not. We do not appear anywhere, and our rights are not protected in any designated or distinct form. And so there has been a 100-year struggle of the Equal Rights Amendment. If you're familiar with the ERA, and perhaps maybe you were even part of these efforts in the 70s, for example, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'd love to see it. For those of you who are not familiar, the ERA is very simple. It's one sentence of wonderful equality for us all. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. It seeks to end gender discrimination by law in every level of the United States. And this is most important because what do we see today as the Supreme Court is trying to go after our right to reproductive health care? It's a form of gender discrimination that the United States is taking against its own citizens, and something like the ERA would have prevented this. The process for that constitutional approval has an outlined process in the Constitution, and the most exciting part to say is, as I am here today with you, is we finally met all requirements in 2020, if you can believe that. We're in the most critical time for the ERA in all of the ERA's organizing history, and that's why we need you. The background to the amendment is that it was created by Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman to guarantee gender equality. We know that the 19th Amendment is important, but it's not enough, and it doesn't protect women. And that's why we see so many of these policies coming down today. Our timeline has been simple and also not. In 1923, this was introduced almost 100 years ago, and women are still denied equal citizenship in the United States. But most importantly, in the 70s was a critical moment for the ERA. The House of Representatives passed the amendment, and then the Senate affirmed it. And a deadline was set on this passage. However, that deadline was extended, and we didn't meet the deadline to make the 38 states that were necessary. But we did in 2020. And so in the chat, I need claps because we fought hard and we did it. We got the last 3 states. It took a long time, but we are here and we are proud. And not only that, we're gonna keep going until it's won. But guess what happened? Those of us who are against women equality, they came to us and they said, oh, it's too bad the deadline passed. Of course, the deadline is not in the Constitution as any type of requirement, but it's being used as an excuse to deny our equality in the Constitution. And so now where we are is the ERA technically has passed. We are ready to go. And all we need is for Congress to remove that deadline so that quite literally generations of women from now, your daughters, your granddaughters, your great-great-granddaughters will live in a country where their rights are protected. So we need you now more than ever. I also want to mention, I'm going to go through some of this quickly, but the ERA also protects people of the LGBTQ community. And queer and trans organizers have been at the forefront of organizing this. I'll name actually two people in particular who are Black queer women and Black trans people. Polly Murray and Senator Pat Spearman are very important in the legacy of crafting the ERA, but oftentimes are erased in this history. And I want to center them and bring them into this space. So why didn't we see this happen in the 70s? Well, maybe some of you might have been there, or if you're new to this information, it's not actually because we only saw, one group of people who were anti-women's rights get mobilized. It's actually because the ERA itself has deep impact across multiple spheres in our society, including will help combat insurance discrimination, education and healthcare discrimination, maternity leave and maternity health, which oftentimes are impacted for women of color most. And it was insurance companies and lobbyists and corporations that decided instead that they were going to push back on this. And they united around a common face who was Phyllis Schlafly at the time, but largely this was actually a coordinated effort by many people who were afraid about what it would mean to finally rectify those inequalities. All right, I'm going to give us some kind of quick summaries on why the ERA is so important and why I want to tell you all to come and join us in this fight today. So for one, this would help us rectify the problems with every administration, right? And regardless of where you are in the United States or what country you're coming from, no matter who is in office, we would be protected by the Constitution. And these are our inalienable rights. This is our founding document that ultimately goes up all the way to the top. We know, and especially as folks, write in the chat and have named, especially that we're standing on indigenous land, right? We know that the founders and the framers of the Constitution were white, slave-owning men. And they essentially kept out everyone else. And they created that Constitution within their image. And so we know to today that Black, Indigenous, and people of color, right, are left out of that vision. We know that women are left out of that vision. We know that people of all marginalized genders and sexualities are left out of that vision. And we know that ultimately we cannot do this in a piecemeal way of having to just combat these little fires constantly and be in constant reactive mode. We have to go to the source. We don't have equal rights in this country. And it's 100 years on since the ERA has been introduced. Say it with me in the chat, shame. Shame. I want you to say it with me. I'm not kidding, shame. You should feel the shame and the sadness and the anger, because we should not feel like we are crazy. This is wrong. And the fact that every generation, including my own, has to get up and fight and be in the streets for the exact same issues shows us what's happening. It shows us that the source of it is wrong, that we will keep having to refight this same fight until we are guaranteed equality, and especially equality under the law. There are so many ways the ERA impacts us. Right now, what if instead of prioritizing how the heck we're supposed to deal with sexual assault by going at the end of the problem, right? We invested in sexual assault trainings, in consent early on for children to learn about what it means to care for each other and to not have coercion be part of our most intimate relationships, right? What if we had young people plugged in and understanding gender equality issues early on? This is also a question of resources. The same is for the conversation of equal pay, which will be one of the major wins of if the ERA is finally ratified. Equal pay continues to hold women down. We know it's 70 cents-ish, 70 cents, 77 cents-ish on the dollar compared to men. And that's just white women. And it gets worse as you get to Black women, Latinx women, etc. It is a horrible, horrible gap that is very obvious, especially in the way that women can move and not move capital around and invest in themselves and in their future generations and each other. So I want to leave you with this. I'm here today to tell you that this organizing is happening, that it's fresh and it's real and it needs you. It needs your deliciousness. It needs your joy. It needs you to bring your ingenuity.
I don't know if you want to listen to this.
Oh, hi. your genius, your love to this movement, because it is very much alive. And not only is it alive, it actually is at the most critical pinnacle that it has been in its entire history. So right now we need people across generations. Listen, I'm from the Gen Z and millennial era. And I'm telling you, I want to build with people who fought with this in the 70s. We're going to learn from the folks who fought for this in the 30s. We're going to share knowledges with each other. We're going to learn from our past organizing, and we have to make this work. So I'm going to tell you about a couple opportunities about how we're doing this. Number one, right now, we have passed everything, every single qualification, every single box that had to be checked has been. We've done our due diligence, we're there. And now on behalf of the ERA Coalition and the Feminist Front, I come to you to say that our last little piece in our way is two things. Number one, the Senate has to pass something called Senate Resolution 1. It's number one, it's literally the most important. And it's currently being blocked by 6 senators that we need to finally get us that vote. And then it will be real. Secondly, the Biden administration has the ability to publish this amendment through the archivist. And it will be taken to court, but it's already being taken to court. So we want Biden to take action also. These are direct, tangible ways that you can get involved right now, but most importantly, it's to be part of the movement building. So if that's inviting people to talk about the ERA, we're here, we want to. We have tons of people from all different sectors of society who want to come and bring this information to you. But also, it's to understand yourself as a powerful agent for change for this women's rights struggle, and to know there's actually very, very tangible and critical steps we can take right now that will help us, for example, defend abortion so nothing like this could ever happen again. Didn't matter who the Supreme Court was, if it was in the Constitution, we wouldn't have to go and ask permission. They'd have to enforce it. Do y'all hear me what I'm saying? That's what we're talking about, getting to the root of our regeneration. And that's what we want you to be part of. So I'm gonna leave you with this. I come to you and ask you to join us. I come to you and also ask you to affirm your own voice, okay? Oftentimes we sit there and are told as women that we're just being oversensitive. Just wait our turn, right? It'll come. But it's enough with these voices. It's been 100 years. Multiple generations have been fighting for equality. And it's time, it's time, it's time. It's time. Y'all hear me? It's time. We've been fighting, it's time. And I will say this to end us off. I want to name that we are equal by birth. No matter who says it or not, we are equal by birth. No one can tell you or me otherwise. I want you to move through this world like this. I want you to tell young people like me that we are like this. I want you to understand and share and build with other women like this. We are equal by birth. It is time the US Constitution reflect that. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Wow, 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 Sophia. Thank you. Thank you. You have gotten this chat all a buzz and a flutter. And I so appreciate your passion because it's the truth. And we feel your truth. We feel your heart. And thank you so much for what you're doing. And we will be following up with links to what you guys are up to. We're contributing a donation to their organization. I encourage others to also do that to support these amazing young folks who are stepping up and stepping out and being heard. Thank you.